The Legend of Jigong Chapter 42.
Imagine for a second waking up in the middle of the night.
Okay.
You look out the window and you discover a completely naked man fleeing your courtyard.
Terrifying.
Right. But it gets worse. Because of that one visual, your family instantly disowns you. I mean, within minutes.
Just completely cuts you off.
Exactly. And then your own father walks into your room, hands you a heavy rope and a sharp steel knife, and gives you an ultimatum to end your own life right there.
It's just, it's an absolutely brutal scenario.
It really is. And, what if I told you that the only way to prove you were a perfectly sane, respectable person, the only way to survive and prove your innocence, was to basically hack your way out of that room, cover yourself in your own blood, stagger into the public square, and convince the entire town that you had completely lost your mind?
It sounds like an impossible paradox, right?
Yeah.
You're essentially destroying your identity in order to save it.
That paradox is exactly where we are going today. And our mission today is to look at the absolute suffocating weight of reputation in this specific historical setting. We are introduced to a woman named Zhao Yuzhen. She is a chaste widow. Her husband, Li Wenyuan, has passed away, and she lives in the east courtyard of the Li family compound.
And it's a celebratory night in the compound.
Yes, it is. It's her brother-in-law's birthday. There's a banquet happening. But then a maid comes to the door of Yuzin's courtyard, and out of the blue, this completely naked man runs out of Yuzin's courtyard and flees into the night.
And we need to pause immediately on that phrase you used earlier.
Which one? Chaste widow.
Yes,
Huh?
because chaste widow is not just a casual descriptor in this text.
It's a formal title. Right.
Exactly. In the historical and cultural context of this narrative, a chaste widow, or jifu, was a recognized institutional role.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, when a woman's husband died, if she refused to remarry and dedicated her entire life to serving his parents and raising his children, she generated an enormous amount of social and even economic capital for the family.
Wait, hold on. Economic capital?
Yep.
How does a woman staying a widow translate to economics for the family?
It's fascinating. The imperial state actively promoted this behavior, so families that produced exceptionally chaste widows could literally be rewarded with tax exemptions.
You get a tax break for having a virtuous widow in the house.
You do. Tax exemptions, public praise, and sometimes they'd even get physical monuments, like memorial arches built right in their towns to honor her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it elevated the entire clan's status.
Yeah.
So Yuzhen isn't just a grieving wife in this story. She is a pillar of the Li family's public virtue. She is essentially a walking, breathing asset of their reputation.
Wow. Okay. That makes the visual of the naked man so much worse.
Oh, infinitely worse.
Because he's not just a trespasser making people uncomfortable. He is a walking demolition ball to their tax status, their social standing, and their local prestige.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, this naked man is witnessed by the two most important figures of authority in this scenario.
Right. The absolute worst people who could have seen it.
Yeah. We have Li Wenfeng, who is Yuzhen's brother-in-law and the current head of the household she lives in. And we also have Zhao Haiming, who is Yuzhen's own father. He's just there visiting for the birthday banquet.
And they both see this guy sprinting out of the courtyard.
They do.
Yeah.
They see the naked man run.
But the crazy thing is, they don't catch him.
No, he gets away.
They let him disappear into the dark, which means they have zero context for what just happened. They just have the visual.
Yeah.
And Li Wenfeng, the brother-in-law, immediately loses his mind.
He is furious.
Furious. He turns to Yuzhen's father, Zhao Haiming, and essentially says, "Look at the absolute trash you've raised." And he makes this incredibly dramatic proclamation.
What's fascinating here is the specific language he uses.
Right. He says the Li family is a family of poetry and books, a family of rites and music.
Yes. And that phrase implies they are a scholarly family, part of the literati class.
Okay.
Their entire ability to wield power, to pass the civil service exams, to marry well, it all relies on an unbroken veneer of Confucian morality. The naked man threatens to shatter that completely. So their reaction is just instantaneous.
Right. They completely abandon the birthday celebration. They don't go check on Yuzhen to see if she's safe.
No, they retreat straight to the private study.
And once they're in the study, Lise gives Zhao this brutal binary choice regarding Yuzhen. He says public or private.
Which is such a chilling ultimatum.
Okay, let's unpack these options, because neither option, by the way, involves asking Yuzhen what actually happened.
No, her truth is irrelevant at this point.
It really is. So public means they go to the Kunshan County Magistrate. They file a massive public lawsuit. It becomes a huge scandal for the whole town to chew on.
Which neither of them wants.
Right. But private means they execute a backroom deal right then and there. Li Wenfeng says he will write a letter divorcing Yuzhen. But here's the part that completely stopped me in my tracks when I read the source text.
It's wild.
He says he will write the divorce letter on behalf of his dead brother.
The legal fiction of that is just astonishing.
I mean, how's that even mechanically possible? The dead man is initiating a divorce through his living brother. Like, what is the logic there?
Well, it really speaks to the concept of lineage over the individual in this society.
Okay.
In this patriarchal structure, a woman marries into a lineage, right? Not just to a single man. So when the husband dies, the brother, as the new head of the household, assumes absolute authority over the lineage's assets and its liabilities.
And she is now viewed as a massive liability.
Exactly. Because Yuzhen's perceived indiscretion threatens the entire ancestral line, the brother-in-law assumes the proxy authority to expel her. He acts as the voice of the deceased husband to just amputate her from the family tree.
It's treating her entirely as a piece of property, like a defective asset being returned to the manufacturer.
That's a very accurate way to look at it.
Because the second half of this private deal is that Zhao Hamming, her own father, has to write a no incident or no contest letter. A document basically stating he takes his daughter back and promises there will be no legal retaliation.
Yeah, it's an extrajudicial settlement. It's a private treaty between two sovereign patriarchs designed entirely to preserve the family's face.
I was trying to think of a modern equivalent to this, and the closest I can get is like a ruthless corporate NDA or a crisis PR strategy.
Well, that's a good analogy.
Right. It's like two rival CEOs sitting in a back room, signing ironclad non-disclosure agreements, agreeing to liquidate a subsidiary company, and promising not to sue each other to keep the scandal out of the papers.
Exact.
Except the asset they are writing off in this boardroom is a living, breathing human being.
And look at how Zhao Hamming, the father, reacts to this. The text explicitly describes him as a reasonable, educated man.
Which is wild to me.
Well, he doesn't flip over the table. He doesn't demand an investigation. He calculates. He realizes the incident happened on Li's property. He thinks to himself, you know, if this had happened in his own home, he might have some jurisdictional ground to defend her.
Like a home field advantage.
Right. But because it happened within Li's walls, he believes he has absolutely no defense.
Okay, I have to push back on the text calling him reasonable here. He's throwing his own flesh and blood to the wolves without even conducting a 5-minute conversation with her. How does the narrative justify calling him an educated, reasonable man in this moment?
I know it's hard for a modern reader to swallow, but the narrative isn't calling him reasonable by our modern standards of, like, unconditional parental love.
Right.
It's calling him reasonable within the cold logic of the system. He understands the rules of the game. And the rules dictate that the physical boundary, the courtyard, supersedes her personal character.
Wow.
An educated man in this society knows that the mere appearance of a scandal is indistinguishable from the scandal itself. The truth doesn't matter. The optics do.
So his immediate surrender just highlights how terrifyingly fragile a woman's existence is. So the men are in the study signing away her existence. But let's physically move the camera, so to speak.
Yes, let's go to the inner chambers.
Exactly. Let's look at the actual human being at the center of this paperwork, because a maid happens to overhear this entire backroom negotiation.
Right.
And this maid runs deeper into the compound to warn the matriarchs. She finds Yuzhen's mother, Mother Huang, and Yuzhen's older sister-in-law. And she just unloads everything. The naked man, the divorce letter, the no contest letter.
And the reaction of the matriarchs is critical here. The author specifically notes that the older sister-in-law is a harmonious, virtuous woman who traditionally gets along beautifully with Yuzhen.
Right, there's no bad blood there.
Exactly. The author is ensuring we know there is no pre-existing malice.
Yeah.
This isn't a Cinderella situation with an evil stepfamily who hates her and wants her gone.
Okay, that's an important detail.
It is, because it shows that this is a functional, loving family dynamic that is about to be systematically dismantled by sheer panic.
So the women grab lanterns and they sprint to the east courtyard to see for themselves. And the scene the text paints here is incredibly haunting.
It's so cinematic.
It really is. They enter Yuzhen's room. The text describes the lighting as dimly lit, kind of gloomy and tragic. Yuzhen is in bed. She is completely fast asleep.
Yeah.
She's fully clothed, and she is holding her young child in her arms. I mean, she looks like the very picture of innocent domesticity. But, and this is the massive, but right next to her on the bed, there is physical evidence.
With the clothes?
Yes, there's a man's shirt, a pair of men's pants, a pair of men's shoes, and men's socks, just sitting there.
And that changes the entire geometry of the situation.
How so?
Well, think about it. Without those clothes, the women could easily conclude that a thief had merely run through the courtyard, right? A trespasser looking to steal some silver.
Which happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a full set of men's clothing, neatly arranged beside a sleeping widow. That implies a narrative of intimacy. It implies a man was comfortably undressed in her bed and had to flee so quickly he left his garments behind.
It is brilliantly sinister setup. I mean, if a guy is running out naked, obviously he left his clothes behind. It is perfectly planted evidence to frame her.
It's devastating.
So the women wake Yuzhen up. Yuzhen is groggy. She's confused. She looks around at her mother, her sister-in-law, all these maids holding lanterns and staring at her. She asks, "Mother, what time is it? Why are you all in my room?"
She has no idea what's happening.
None. And one of the maids, who apparently has no filter whatsoever, just blurts out the entire story of the naked man and the divorce letters being written in the study.
We really have to analyze the psychological terror of this specific moment. This is an absolute masterclass in gaslighting.
Oh, 100%.
Because Yuzhen possesses the absolute truth of her own lived reality. She went to sleep with her child. She did nothing wrong. But suddenly, the people she trusts most in the universe are presenting her with undeniable physical evidence that contradicts her reality.
And the sister-in-law and the mother instantly turn on her. The sister-in-law, the one who was just described as getting along with her, points at the clothes and says, "Don't play dumb. How do you explain these?"
The total collapse of female solidarity here is devastating, but unfortunately, it's structurally inevitable.
Because of the patriarchy.
Exactly. In this system, a woman's safety, her status, and her access to basic resources are entirely dependent on her proximity to male approval. The sister-in-law literally cannot afford to give Yuzhen the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, because if she sides with her.
Right. If the sister-in-law defends a woman who has already been deemed a disgraced adulteress by the patriarchs in the study, she risks contaminating her own status. The physical evidence, the shoes, and the shirt completely short-circuits years of lived trust.
I can't even imagine the physical panic Yuzhen must be experiencing in that room. The text says she feels her 5 organs tearing apart.
A very visceral description.
Very. She starts violently trembling. She is sweating profusely, even though she isn't hot. Her brain is just scrambling to process an impossible reality. But instead of just screaming, she delivers this phenomenal, vivid metaphor to her mother.
Yes, the muddy water.
She says, "This is like muddy water where you can't tell the silver carp from the common carp. Only when the water clears can you see the 2 different fish."
It is such a precise choice of words. She is diagnosing her own impossible entrapment right there on the spot.
Break that down for me. What does she mean by the 2 fish?
Well, imagine a pond that has been violently stirred up. All the mud is suspended in the water. Everything looks identical. The noble silver carp and the bottom-feeding common carp are completely indistinguishable. Guilt and innocence look exactly the same when the environment is this agitated by rumor and planted evidence.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because think about it. If you or I were suddenly accused of something horrific, surrounded by people pointing fingers, the immediate visceral instinct is to fight back loudly.
Of course, you get defensive.
Right. You scream, "I didn't do it. Look at me. I'm innocent. Let me explain." But she doesn't do that. She gives them a metaphor. Why doesn't she fight back right then and there?
Because she understands the physics of power in that room better than anyone. The inner chambers, filled with panicked women reacting to planted evidence, is not a court of law. It's a court of public opinion that has already reached its verdict before she even woke up.
Wow.
She realizes that anything she says while the water is muddy will only stir up more mud. If she screams, they will call her hysterical and guilty. If she cries, they will say it's tears of shame. She recognizes that she cannot win in this venue. Arguing now is useless.
She needs the environment to change.
Exactly. She needs the water to clear.
But the absolute tragedy is that she doesn't get the time for the water to clear.
Yeah.
Because right at that moment, the men arrive.
The ink is dry.
The ink is dry on their backroom deal, and they walk into the inner chambers to execute it. Zha Haiming and Li Wenfeng enter the room, and this abstract concept of a paper divorce suddenly becomes physically, violently real.
It does.
Li Wenfeng, the brother-in-law, walks straight over to the bed and violently snatches the baby right out of Yu Zhen's arms.
This is where the structural brutality of the system is laid bare for everyone to see. He doesn't just take the child, he asserts a legal and biological claim.
Over the baby.
Yes, he states that the child belongs to his brother's bloodline, the Li family lineage. Because Yuzhen is now officially divorced and expelled via that piece of paper in his pocket, she has instantly forfeited all maternal rights.
It's sickening. It's not just a separation, it's a complete amputation. The text calls the baby her youngest son. By taking the son, Li Wenfeng is stripping away her very identity.
She's nothing to them now.
Right. She isn't a Li family wife anymore, and now she isn't even a mother. He is keeping the valuable asset, the male heir, and throwing the disgraced woman out into the cold.
The patriarchal structure demands absolute ownership over the lineage. The child is property of the male line. The woman is merely a vessel that has now been deemed contaminated and must be discarded.
So Yuzhen, sobbing, her arms completely empty, is shoved into a sedan chair and hauled back to her father's house. The Li family has solved their problem. They amputated the limb.
But now her father has a problem.
A massive problem. Zhao Haiming just brought a disgraced, expelled daughter back into his own household. They arrive at the Zhao residence. Mother Huang and Yuzhen are ushered into a room. And the father, this supposedly educated, reasonable gentleman we talked about earlier, he walks into the room, he shuts the door, he slides the bolt, locking them inside. He throws a heavy rope and a sharp steel knife onto the floor in front of his daughter, and he gives her an ultimatum.
A horrifying one.
He says, "Die right now. If not, tomorrow I will bury you alive."
And the Mother Huang, who has just watched her daughter lose her child and now watches her husband order their daughter's execution, she literally faints on the spot. The psychological overload is total.
We have to unpack the father here, because he locks his daughter in a room and tells her to kill herself with a knife, or he will bury her alive. And he isn't presented in the text as a serial killer or a psychopath. He's presented as a pillar of the community.
Right.
How does a society culturally justify a father holding this much lethal authority over an adult child?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is deeply tied to the extreme interpretations of filial piety Xiao and the legal frameworks of the time.
Okay, explain, Xiao.
The family was viewed as a microcosm of the state. The father was the absolute sovereign of his household, just as the emperor was the absolute sovereign of the empire.
So the father is basically a mini-emperor.
Exactly. To challenge a father's authority was seen as a precursor to challenging the emperor's authority. Therefore, the state granted patriarchs immense leeway in disciplining unfilial behavior.
Even lethal discipline.
Yes. If a child brought catastrophic shame upon the ancestors, the father taking lethal action was sometimes quietly tolerated, or at least heavily mitigated in the eyes of the law, because he was seen as acting to preserve the moral order of the lineage.
But burying her alive, is that just a dramatic figure of speech, or is he literal? Like, is he actually going to dig a hole?
He is terrifyingly literal. And the method he threatens is significant.
How so?
Well, a knife or a rope leaves a bloody, messy aftermath. It leaves a corpse that has to be explained to the local authorities. Burying her alive is an act of total erasure. It is swallowing up the shame into the earth itself, hiding the evidence of the family's ruin forever.
Oh my God.
The father is furious, yes, but he is also acting out of a twisted sense of self-preservation. He is trapped in a system where his own social survival and his standing among the local gentry will be completely destroyed if the town finds out his daughter is a disgraced adulteress.
Right.
So he is willing to commit an atrocity against his own child just to survive the social ostracization.
I mean, he genuinely believes he's the primary victim here.
Oh, absolutely.
He's furious at her for putting him in a position where he has to ruin his evening by ordering her death. It's like a twisted honor killing where the executioner claims he's doing it for the greater good of the family name.
That's spot on. He is enforcing the rules of a prison that he himself is locked inside.
So the father leaves. The door is locked from the outside. Mother Huang is unconscious on the floor, and Yuzhen is staring at this rope and this steel knife. She is entirely trapped, and the narrative gives us access to her internal monologue here.
Which is a brilliant piece of writing.
It is. Her first thought is exhaustion. She actually contemplates doing it. She thinks, maybe I should just pick up the rope and end it. Maybe I should just find peace. But then she has a profound realization that stops her cold.
She realizes the long-term consequence.
Yes, she realizes that if she dies tonight in this locked room, by her own hand, she will leave behind what she calls a stinking reputation for 10,000 years.
That phrase, a stinking reputation for 10,000 years, or Yichuan, is the hinge on which her entire character turns.
Break that down for me. Why does the timeline matter so much to her? 10,000 years is a long time.
Because she recognizes that she is fighting a two-front war. There is biological survival, just continuing to breathe, and there's historical survival.
Okay, historical survival, meaning what?
In a culture that meticulously maintains ancestral shrines, updates genealogical records, and venerates the dead, your reputation outlives your physical body by centuries.
Right, you're immortalized in the records.
Exactly. If she kills herself, the act of suicide will be universally interpreted by the town as a permanent confession of guilt. The muddy water will freeze solid. For generations, she will be recorded not as a victim, but as a shameful curse word in the family history.
So death isn't a release.
No. She realizes that death is not an escape. It is a final, irreversible defeat.
I love this part. She refuses the script. The patriarchy handed her a knife and a script that literally said, "Die quietly so we can save face." And she rejects it entirely.
She rewrites it.
She decides in that moment that she must survive, and she must figure out a way to get to the Kunjin County magistrate to force a public trial. She wants the public trial that the men actively avoided in the study.
The agency she reclaims in this moment is astounding. Everything in the story so far has been done to her. The framing, the proxy divorce, the theft of her child, the locked door. Now she takes the very instrument her father provided for her destruction, the steel knife, and repurposes it as a tool for her own liberation.
Right. She picks up the knife, but not to hurt herself. She uses the knife to violently hack through the wooden lattice of the window. She climbs out of the room and drops into the garden.
Yeah, it's pitch black out there.
It is the middle of the night. It's dark. She is terrified. She is disoriented, and she is running blindly. As she navigates the dark garden, she trips over a heavy stone threshold. She falls hard. And in the chaos of the fall, the steel knife she is clutching slices deeply into her own hand.
The text gives us this incredibly visceral image of the blood.
Yes, she is bleeding heavily. She scrambles to her feet, wiping the blood from her hand, but it gets all over her clothes. She manages to escape the family compound and wanders out into the dark streets of the city.
Which is incredibly dangerous for a woman alone at night.
She is terrified of running into bandits or night watchmen who would arrest her, but finally, the sun begins to rise.
And this is when we get to see the physical toll of the night.
It's a stark image. She is standing in the street. Her hair is a tangled mess. Her clothes are torn and stained with dark, dried blood. And an old woman steps out of a nearby house to pour out a basin of water.
Right.
The old woman sees Yuzhen, freezes, and gasps. She points at Yuzhen and yells out, "Oh my, isn't this a mad woman?"
This is a brilliant narrative pivot. The old woman unintentionally hands Yuzhen the exact key she needs to survive.
Explain the mechanics of that. I mean, why is being called a mad woman a good thing in this context?
Well, think about the strict social hierarchy we just discussed. If Eugene walked down the street looking like a rational, coherent, chaste widow, or even just a normal daughter of a gentry family, she would be immediately intercepted.
Because women don't just wander the streets alone.
Exactly. People would demand to know who she belonged to, why she was unescorted, and they would likely return her to her father, which means returning her to a live burial.
Oh, right.
But a mad woman exists outside the social matrix. Madness is a void. People fear it, they pity it, but most importantly, they do not apply the rules of decorum to it. Madness exempts you from the behavioral codes of the patriarchy.
It's like an invisibility cloak woven out of insanity.
That's a perfect way to phrase it.
And Yuzhen is so incredibly sharp that she realizes this instantly. The moment the old woman calls her mad, Yuzhen leans into the role with everything she has.
She starts performing.
She starts clapping her hands, laughing wildly, and she screams out, "Good, good, good, come, 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 come with me to the Western Heaven to become a Buddha."
And the strategy works flawlessly. The old woman is terrified and scrambles back inside. A crowd starts to gather in the street to watch, but they keep a wide perimeter.
They don't want to get near her.
Right. They perceive her as a dangerous, raving lunatic, which ensures no one attempts to grab her or question her identity. Her fake madness becomes her physical armor.
But the irony of it is staggering. I mean, think about it. To protect her actual reputation as a sane, virtuous, highly moral woman, she is forced to stagger through the public streets, screaming like a bloody maniac.
It's the ultimate paradox.
She has to utterly obliterate her dignity in the short term just to have a chance at reclaiming it in the long term.
It's a massive critique of the society's rules by the author. The only conceivable way a woman can move freely and safely to seek legal justice is if society is convinced her brain is completely broken. Her insanity is, paradoxically, the most brutally logical and rational tactic available to her.
So, Yujin is playing this part, wandering through the morning crowds, desperately trying to figure out where the county yamen, the official court, is located. But right as she is mastering her performance of fake madness, she collides with someone whose madness is not fake at all.
Enter the trickster.
Yes, it is legendary. From down the street, she hears a voice shouting over the crowd, "I'm mad too, get out of the way." She looks up and she sees a monk approaching.
And we need to look closely at the physical description of this monk because it is entirely symbolic.
Paint the picture for us.
The text tells us he has hair that is about 2 inches long. That is an immediate red flag because a proper Buddhist monk should have a smoothly shaven head.
Right.
His face is caked in thick mud. He is wearing a tattered, torn robe with short sleeves and a missing collar. He has a rough, knotted rope tied around his waist instead of a proper sash, and he is stomping through the streets, barefooted in ragged straw sandals. His gait is aggressive, wild, and staggering.
This is Jigong.
This is Jigong.
I love Yuzin's reaction here. She takes one look at this guy, and her fake madness drops for a second internally. She thinks to herself, okay, I'm just playing pretend, but this monk is the real deal. What if he comes over here and actually attacks me?
She's genuinely scared of him.
She freezes in terror, but then she notices 2 men walking right behind the monk. They are servants named Zhao Fu and Zhao Lu, and they are panting, sweating, and looking absolutely furious.
The author includes these 2 servants to provide the immediate context for Jigong's current chaotic state.
And it is the most wonderfully absurd story.
It really is.
The servants reveal that Jigong just forced them to carry this massive, incredibly heavy stone block across town. They are physically exhausted. And why? Because Jigong just purchased this random stone for 237 taels of silver.
Which, we should note, is an astronomical sum of money in this era. It's a small fortune.
Right, a literal fortune. So he buys this rock for a fortune, makes them carry it until their backs are breaking, and then he immediately turns around and sells the exact same rock to someone else for a measly 100 cash pennies.
He just threw it away.
He vaporized a fortune in minutes for absolutely no logical reason, and now he's walking down the street shouting about being mad.
So this raises a vital question about the narrative structure. Why include this highly specific, bizarre vignette about a rock transaction right at the exact moment he intersects with a desperate, bleeding woman running for her life?
So what does this all mean? My read on it is that it's a massive, glaring contrast to the men we met in the first chapter.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about it. We just spent all this time with Li Wenfeng and Zhao Heming men who are obsessively, violently attached to status, property, face, and wealth. They will lock a daughter in a room with a knife to protect their social standing.
Their entire worth is tied to earthly assets.
Exactly. And then the author introduces Jigong, a guy who takes a literal fortune in silver, buys a heavy rock, and throws the value away for pennies just to exhaust 2 servants. Money, status, and material logic mean absolutely zero to him. He destroys the very concept of economic value just for a laugh.
Right.
That makes him the perfect diametric opposite to the rigid, honor-obsessed patriarchs.
That is a brilliant synthesis. The men in Yujin's family are prisoners of their attachments. Their desperate need to preserve face is what makes them monstrous. Jigong's madness, on the other hand, is the external expression of his total detachment from those earthly concerns.
He's completely unbound.
He is unbound by the rules of Confucian decorum or capitalist logic. And because he is completely free from those worldly attachments, he's the only character in the entire narrative who is capable of seeing clearly through the muddy water that Yujin is trapped in.
It creates this incredible buddy comedy dynamic right in the middle of a thriller.
It really does.
You have this desperate, bloody woman on the run for her life, suddenly paired up with a filthy, staggering monk who just intentionally lost a fortune on a rock. Jigong stops right in front of Yujin. He doesn't attack her. He doesn't act crazy toward her at all.
No, he's incredibly direct.
He just leans in and mutters, almost casually, "If you want a lawsuit, follow me. If you don't know the yamen, I'll take you." And then he just turns and starts walking.
It's a profound moment of recognition. He sees right through her act.
Yujin is stunned. She realizes instantly that this monk knows exactly what she needs. He isn't crazy. He's lucid in a way no one else is. So this bloody fake mad widow starts trailing behind the filthy real mad monk through the crowded streets of Kunshan.
It is a procession of the outcasts. To the casual observer, they are the two most insane, worthless people in the city, but structurally, they are the only two people actively working to uncover the truth.
So guided by Jigong, Yuzhen is about to collide with the state justice system. They don't walk very far before Jigong suddenly holds up a hand and stops.
He has a plan.
He does. He tells her, "We don't need to walk all the way to the court. The Kunshan County magistrate is returning from a visit with local officials. His procession is coming right down this street."
He intercepts them.
And Jigong gives her the exact playbook. He says, "When the chair approaches, you block the path, you kneel in the dirt, and you scream, 'Injustice!' at the top of your lungs. If you do that, he guarantees the lawsuit will happen."
And we are treated to the grand, cinematic arrival of the magistrate's procession. Author spares no detail here.
Yeah, describe the procession.
We see the flying flags, we hear the crashing gongs, we see the guards with whips actively clearing the commoners out of the way, we see the massive ceremonial umbrellas of state. This isn't just a judge walking to work, this is the awesome, intimidating, theatrical manifestation of imperial power moving through the streets.
And inside the primary sedan chair is Magistrate Zheng Shihu.
Yes. And the text gives us a very deliberate resume for Magistrate Zheng. It notes that he is a scholar official, which means he survived the grueling imperial civil service examinations. But more importantly, it explicitly states that he is famous for having 2 sleeves of clear wind and that he loves the people like his own children.
Let's talk about that idiom, 2 sleeves of clear wind.
Yang Shu King Feng.
Right. What does that actually mean?
It is a vital cultural shorthand. In traditional Chinese officialdom, magistrates wore robes with massive, wide, draping sleeves.
Like physically very large sleeves.
Exactly. And corrupt officials were infamous for using those wide sleeves to discreetly hide the silver bullion and bribes they accepted from wealthy local families.
Ah, I see.
Therefore, a magistrate with 2 sleeves of clear wind means his sleeves are completely empty of silver. They hold nothing but the passing wind. It is the highest compliment you can give a judge. It signifies that he is fiercely, stubbornly incorruptible.
So we have a judge who absolutely cannot be bought. The procession is rumbling down the street. Yuzhen executes the playbook. She throws herself directly into the middle of the road, blocking the path of the sedan chair, and she screams, "Injustice!" Yes. The entire procession grinds to a chaotic halt. Magistrate Zheng stops the chair, parts the curtain, and tells the bloody woman in the road to raise her head. And right there, kneeling in the street dust, Yuzhen recounts her entire nightmare.
And she is incredibly articulate.
She is lucid, sharp, and misses nothing. The first watch of the night, the brother-in-law's birthday, the naked man, the divorce letter, the planted clothes, the knife, the forced suicide. She lays the whole conspiracy bare.
And this is where the conflict between state law and family law reaches its absolute boiling point.
Because he hesitates.
He does. You have a fiercely incorruptible judge who loves the common people, listening to a credible, horrific tale of attempted murder and framing. Modern instincts tell us he should immediately dispatch guards to arrest the father and the brother-in-law.
Right, that's what we expect.
But he doesn't. He freezes. He hesitates. The narrative provides us with his internal monologue. He thinks to himself, an upright official struggles to judge family matters.
I was so frustrated by this. I mean, this is the guy with 2 empty sleeves. He hates corruption. Why on earth is he backing away from a clear-cut case of a woman being forced into suicide by her family?
Well, this raises an important question about jurisdiction. Because the proverb he quotes, an upright official struggles to judge family matters, or Qingguan Nanduan Jiawu Xiawu Chuan, is the unspoken constitutional limit of his power.
Meaning he's not allowed to intervene.
Even the most powerful imperial magistrate is deeply reluctant to cross the threshold of the patriarchal household. As we discussed earlier, the state relied heavily on the patriarchal family structure to maintain local order.
Right, the father is the emperor of the home.
Exactly. The home was the father's jurisdiction. For a state magistrate to intervene in a father disciplining a daughter, even if that discipline involved lethal force regarding her chastity, was viewed as incredibly transgressive.
It's a political minefield.
It was bureaucratically messy, socially dangerous, and politically fraught. Zheng is actively considering dropping the curtain and ignoring her plea, simply because the headache of fighting 2 local gentry members over their own domestic affairs is too high.
It's infuriating. He is staring at a woman covered in dried blood. He knows in his gut she's been terribly wronged, but the invisible boundaries of the system are telling him, not your jurisdiction, let the family sort it out.
And he's about to move on.
He is right on the verge of waving his guards forward to move the chair, but suddenly a voice rings out from the back of the crowd of onlookers.
The monk.
It's Jigong. The filthy monk heckles the judge. She yells out, "You leave cases unhandled. You only know how to compare taxes and money."
It is a surgical strike on the magistrate's ego.
Oh, it really is.
Think about it. Zheng's entire identity, his entire public persona, is built on being the incorruptible man of the people, the guy who doesn't care about money. And here's a beggar monk in front of the entire town, publicly accusing him of being a typical money-grubbing bureaucrat who turns a blind eye to real suffering just to collect taxes.
I was trying to think of how to describe the impact of this heckle. It's like a perfectly timed tweet that shames a politician into doing their job.
And that's exactly what it is.
The magistrate's power relies entirely on the public performance of virtue, the umbrellas, the gongs. It's all a theatrical display of moral superiority. Jigong just walked onto the stage and shattered the performance. He publicly humiliated the judge's moral standing.
And Zheng is absolutely furious.
He barks an order for his guards to arrest the insolent monk. The guards rush into the crowd, but Jigong has simply vanished. He is gone without a trace.
The supernatural evasion rattles the magistrate completely.
It does. Being shamed by a phantom monk flips a switch in Zheng's head. He realizes he cannot sweep this under the rug without looking like the coward the monk accused him of being.
He's forced to act.
Exactly. Spurred by this profound public shaming, Zheng officially accepts the case. He orders Yuzhen to be brought back to the Yamen, the official court.
The intervention of the trickster is the only mechanism capable of bridging the gap between Yuzhen's desperate reality and the magistrate's bureaucratic paralysis. Jigong forced the gears of the system to turn.
So, thanks to a filthy monk bruising a judge's ego, the street theater is over, and we transition into the formal halls of justice. At the Yamen, Magistrate Zheng ascends the high hall. He questions Yuzhen one more time, this time in an official, recorded capacity.
And her consistency is key here.
Yes, the text notes specifically that her story doesn't change by a single syllable. She is rock solid, completely consistent. Satisfied, Zheng sends his court runners out into the city with official summons for the two powerful men. The father, Zhou Heiming, and the brother-in-law, Li Wenfeng.
And we get a very revealing scene when the court runner arrives at the father's house.
Oh, this part drove me crazy.
It's so telling. Zhou Heiming opens his door to find an officer of the court standing there, informing him that his daughter is at the Yamen, filing a lawsuit against him.
Right?
Zhao's immediate reaction is incredibly revealing. He doesn't say, "Oh my God, my daughter is alive, she didn't use the knife." He doesn't say, "How on earth did she escape a locked room?"
Nope.
His first, immediate, and only thought is, what face do I have left to live in Kunshan?
It is pure, unfiltered narcissism. His daughter has effectively crawled back from the grave to drag him into the light, and his primary concern is how awkward his next gathering with the local gentry is going to be.
It's all about optics for him.
So Zhao has no choice. He is forced to comply with the summons and travel to the court. He arrives at the Yamen, and as he stands before the judge, the author gives us a highly specific physical description of him.
Yes. The author notes he has the appearance of a fifth-rank official, with honest, authentic facial features.
Which is such an ironic detail.
The visual juxtaposition here is masterful. The author is deeply criticizing how heavily this society relies on superficial optics.
Right.
We, the audience, just watch this man lock his weeping daughter in a room with a knife and casually threaten to bury her alive in the dirt. Yet outwardly, standing in the courtroom, he looks like the very model of a dignified, honest pillar of the community.
It's disturbing.
Contrast his appearance with Yuzhen, who could cover herself in her own blood and act like a raving lunatic just to secure a hearing. The character who looks the most respectable is actually the most monstrous, and the character who looks the most monstrous is actually the most virtuous.
It completely dismantles the idea that you can judge morality by social presentation. So Zhao is standing before Magistrate Zheng. Zheng is stern. He demands the truth. He says, "Your daughter has leveled severe accusations against you. Speak."
And how does Zhao respond?
He begs for face. Right there, in open court. He asks the magistrate for a personal favor. He says, "Our family had a misfortune. Please leave me some face and don't ask any more questions." He tries to claim he only knows what he physically saw, which was the naked man, and tries to brush the rest away.
It demonstrates the profound disconnect between the lived realities of these different castes. Yuzhen is fighting a desperate war for her physical life, her historical soul, and access to her child.
And what's he fighting for?
Her father is fighting to maintain his social comfort. He honestly, genuinely expects the magistrate to say, "Ah, yes, fellow educated gentlemen, I understand this is embarrassing for a man of your stature. We will quietly sweep this under the rug."
He really thinks they're in a private club.
He assumes the invisible brotherhood of patriarchy will protect him, even when he is standing inside the official halls of state justice.
Think about how often we see the exact same mechanic operating today. I mean, let's be real.
Oh, absolutely.
When powerful people are caught in catastrophic situations of their own making, their immediate instinct is to pull a level behind the scenes. They ask a judge or a CEO or a politician for a quiet favor to handle things discreetly to avoid public embarrassment.
They view justice as a mere inconvenience to their reputation.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the actual victims of their actions are out there having to scream in the streets, destroy their own privacy, and make a massive scene just to force a public reckoning. The tools change, but the playbook is ancient.
But Magistrate Zheng, still stinging from Jigong's heckle and anchored by the pride of his clear sleeves, refuses to play the gentleman's game.
He shuts it down.
He rejects the request for face. He tells Zhao firmly, the case is in court. It cannot be muddled through. The muddy water that Yuzhen spoke of is finally forcefully being allowed to settle.
The judge is demanding absolute clarity. And right at that exact moment, as the tension in the courtroom is stretched to its absolute limit, the court runner bursts in and announces that Li Wenfeng, the brother-in-law who initiated this entire nightmare with his proxy divorce, has arrived at the Yamen.
And that is exactly where the chapter ends.
It leaves us hanging on a massive cliffhanger right as all the architects of this conspiracy are finally assembled under the harsh light of the law.
It is a masterful structural setup. The private tyranny that was executed in the shadows of the inner chambers in the study has finally been dragged, kicking and screaming, into the public arena.